The reason I came to the floor was to discuss an issue which is not uniquely American, but truly American. For 528 years now, in this place called America, we have had immigrants coming to the shores of our nation. Starting with a fellow named Christopher Columbus, if you buy that side of the story, and I do, we've had millions come to our shores, and they have become part of America. With the exception of Native Americans and indigenous people, they come from every corner of this earth to be part of what we call the United States. You would think with that history that we would have a pretty clear idea of what our policy should be when it comes to immigration. Sadly, you're wrong. We have the most broken immigration system imaginable. I've studied it for years and continue to. It's almost impossible to understand all of the twists and turns in our immigration system. 7 years ago, there were 8 of us, 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans in the Senate, with the leadership of Senator McCain and Senator Schumer and many others, came together and rewrote the entire immigration code, the entire immigration body of law. It took us months of meeting every single night, hammering out compromises, agreeing to provisions. Then we went to the Judiciary Committee, and hundreds of amendments were offered. Senator Sessions of Alabama, I think he offered 100 by himself. He wasn't too happy with the bill. But we went through that lengthy process, came to the floor of the Senate, and faced even more amendments. At the end of the day, though, it passed. I believe it was 67 votes on the floor of the Senate. We passed comprehensive immigration reform, sent it to the House of Representatives, and unfortunately, the Republican leadership would not even consider it. Didn't even bring it up for a debate or for an amendment. So we're stuck today with a broken system. And we're also stuck with a system that is rife with politics. I would say, and I think no one would contradict this, no president before Donald Trump has really made such an issue of immigration. No one. It's been an issue in the past, but this president, from the beginning of his campaign until the current time, has hammered away at immigration constantly, calling those who came from Mexico murderers and rapists and so many other things that he's done. I could go give you the long list, litany of things that have happened. It's pretty clear that when it comes to the policy of immigration, this administration is full of venom, but falls short when it comes to vision. Today, I want to address one particular aspect of this. I'm the ranking Democrat on the Immigration Subcommittee. Coincidentally, the chairman of that subcommittee in Judiciary is Senator Cornyn, who just left the floor. So far this year, 10 months into this year, our subcommittee on immigration, despite all of the problems, all of the challenge, has had one hearing. One hearing. It's a good thing we're not paid for the work that we do because, frankly, we've done little or nothing. And the Senate Judiciary Committee, in the same period of time, has only voted on one immigration bill. The Republican majority limited debate to only 1 hour and didn't allow a single amendment to be offered. It's hardly an ambitious effort to make a body of law better. It's time for the Immigration Subcommittee to get back to work. Today I sent a letter joined by every Democrat on the Judiciary Committee asking the Republican chairman of the Immigration Subcommittee, the senator from Texas, to hold a hearing on one serious problem in our immigration system, the green card backlog. In our broken immigration system, there are not nearly enough immigrant visas, legal visas, known as green cards, available each year. As a result, many of the immigrants to this country are stuck in crippling backlogs for years, sometimes decades. Close to 5 million future Americans are in line waiting for green cards. Many are living and working in the United States on temporary visas, while many are waiting abroad, separated from the families that are living in the United States. However, under current law, only 226,000 family green cards and 140,000 employment green cards are available each year. Children and spouses of lawful permanent residents count against these caps, which further limits the availability of green cards. The backlogs are really hard on families who are caught in immigration limbo. For example, children in many of these families age out because they're no longer under the age of 21 by the time the green cards are available. That's why I've asked Senator Cornyn to hold a hearing on this issue to consider several pending bills dealing with this green card backlog. I've asked him repeatedly, I've asked Senator Graham, and I've asked Senator Lee, who's also engaged in this debate. This will help the Senate to understand the impact of each of these proposals before us and to try to reach an agreement. That's how the Senate, incidentally, is supposed to work. where the committees gather, bring in witnesses, have an open debate, agree on a bill, move it forward to the floor, open it to debate on the floor. The fact that we've had only 14, 15, 16 amendments this whole year is an indication of a broken Senate and a broken system. In 2013, as I mentioned, I was part of a bipartisan group that showed this can work. We need to show it again. Our bill went through extensive hearings and debate. Unfortunately, the senior senator from Utah, my friend, Senator Lee, has tried to avoid regular order on this question. He doesn't want it to go to committee. I hope he'll reconsider it. He's come to the floor several times to attempt to pass his legislation, S-386, without any debate or chance to offer amendments. Because he's chosen this approach, I've come to the floor today to speak about his legislation and mine. My concern with Senator Lee's bill is simple. The solution to the green card backlog is obvious: increase the number of green cards. But S-386, Senator Lee's bill, includes no additional green cards. In fact, it has carve-outs for special interest, which are not in the original version of the bill passed by the House, and that will cut the actual number of green cards that are available to reduce the backlog. Without any additional green cards, S-386 will not eliminate backlogs for the immigrants, particularly those from India, and there's a large number, over 500,000. The nationality with the most people in the employment backlog. And it will dramatically increase backlogs for the rest of the world if we go by Senator Lee's bill. Ira Kurzbaum is one of the nation's experts on immigration law. He took a look at Senator Lee's bill, and he said the backlogs will be longer and larger because of it. In fact, over 165,000 Indian immigrants currently in line for these visas will still be waiting 10 years from now. Mr. Kurzban has also made it clear that the Lee bill puts some Indian immigrants to the front of the line at the expense of every other country. From 2023 until well into 2030, there'll be 0 EB-2 visas for the rest of the world, according to Mr. Kurzban. None for China, South Korea, Philippines, Britain, Canada, Mexico, every country in Europe, and all of Africa. None under the Lee bill. It would choke off green cards for every profession that isn't in the information technology field. That will include eliminating green card opportunities for those in healthcare, for those in medical research, those in basic science, those in engineering, chemists and physicists. That's why dozens of national organizations representing many immigrant communities oppose the bill introduced by Senator Lee. Groups representing Arabs, Africans, Asians, Canadian, Chinese, Greek, Irish, Italian, Korean, South Asian, and many, many more have come out in opposition to the Lee bill. More than 20 of these groups sent a letter in opposition. In light of this attempt to pass the Lee bill and the problems it's run into, I'm offering an alternative to this legislation. My alternative is basic and straightforward. It would eliminate the green card backlog and treat all immigrants fairly. The Relief Act, which I introduced with Senator Pat Leahy and Senator Mazie Hirono, will treat all immigrants fairly by eliminating immigration visa backlogs. The relief bill is based on the same comprehensive immigration bill I described earlier. It would lift green card country caps. But unlike S-386, the Relief Act would increase the number of green cards to clear the backlogs for all immigrants waiting in line for green cards within 5 years. Compare that to S-386, the Lee bill, where more than 165,000 Indian immigrants currently in line will still be waiting 10 years from now. The Relief Act will also keep American families together by treating children and spouses of legal permanent residents as immediate relatives, just as the children and spouses of citizens are, so they won't count against the green card cap. And my bill would protect aging out children who qualify for legal permanent resident status based on a parent's immigration status. So, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the Judiciary Committee be discharged of S-2603, the Relief Act, and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. Further, the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection? The majority whip.
Mr. President, the legislation to which the senator from Illinois has referred Senator Lee's bill. He is not able to be here to object, and so on his behalf, I object.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President,
Minority.
I'm sorry for this objection, and I thank the senator from South Dakota for coming to the floor on behalf of the senator from Utah. I have been in communication with the senator from Utah. I hope he'll join me in asking for a hearing. This is an issue which literally affects hundreds of thousands of people living in this country, many of whom have been here for years and decades. Practicing physicians in my hometown of Springfield are affected by this debate. They want to know what their future will be and the future of their children. I'm trying to find a reasonable way to work out a compromise on this, and I stand ready to do so. I hope Senator Lee will join me in asking Senators Graham and Cornyn to have a hearing before the Judiciary Committee. I want to extend this invitation to Senator Lee to join Senate Judiciary Committee Democrats who've signed a letter with me today requesting this hearing. I'm happy to sit down and discuss this issue with the senior senator from Utah or any other senator. If we work together in good faith, I believe we can reach an agreement, a bipartisan agreement on legislation that can pass both chambers and be signed into law. And Mr. President, I yield the floor.